out of his big sweeping gestures, the words that he said, and the question he asked you. His questions were personal, not intruding on your privacy, but not wanting to waste time on fluff. He talked about God, and his words were impassioned. Passion just came out of every pore of his body. He sneezed passionately. And I just sat down and I was wondering, where the passion came from. And of course, he was so passionate, he couldn't help but tell the story. And he told the story about how, about a year before he met me, and he was about a few years older than me, so he probably was in his 40s. He was at another pastor conference, like the place where we met, and he had just come back from a workout, and he was a gym rat. You could tell. I mean, his face was thin, oval shaped, kind of geeky, but his body was like a, muscle builder, right? It was a little bit, took a while to get used to that disproportion there. But he had just come back from a big workout, and he went into his room, and then suddenly there was this burning sensation in his heart, and he knew it wasn't just a muscle ache. And so he grabbed the phone, but his legs gave out, and he fell. But thankfully, he held on to the phone, and so he was able to dial. And to the receiver, he cried, "Help! Help!" EMT came just in time as he was losing consciousness. And he doesn't remember much, but he was thankful that he woke up alive. He had a heart attack. The doctor, his family doctor, couldn't put the reason for the heart attack. He couldn't understand why. He was healthy. I mean, he was a gym rat. But he knew his lifestyle, that he lived in the fast lane. So the doctor said, you're at the tip of your health. You're good to go, but you had a heart attack. You almost died. You got to slow down. So you could be at great health, and you could be doing all the things that's necessary to have a healthy life, but you could still die if you don't slow down. Physically, you could drop dead at any moment if you don't know how to slow down. But this is more true of our inner lives, our soul. Our souls will die if we don't slow down. In fact, I would say most of our souls are dying right now because it's almost impossible for us to slow down. Henry David Thoreau says, most men lead lives of quiet desperation. Resignation is simply the confirmation of that desperation, from desperate cities to desperate lives, to desperate countries. Most men. And symptoms of that desperation is boredom, lack of passion. If we don't learn to slow down, we will physically die one of these days, but our souls will also die. And in this world, it's almost impossible, very difficult to slow down, because this world praises speed. They equate success with speed. If you want to be successful, you have to be fast. Love speed. This world loves speed, right? One of the most top-grossing movie series was Fast and the Furious, right? And they've made so much money, they keep making it over and over again. I think they're up to like Fast and Furious 15 now, right? We want speed. Cellular network can't be just 3G, it has to be 4G. Right? We want our internet downloads to be fast, because our MP3 should come down at 2.1 seconds, not 2.2, because that's going to ruin my life. Speed. There was a study done about National Food Service Management Institute. So it's a government organization. And they studied from our students from K to 12. How fast do they eat in the school cafeterias? It turns out that most of them are eating they finish their lunch from 7 to 10 minutes. That's pretty fast. Now, part of it is because overcrowded schools, they need to get the students in and out, right, within the lunch hour, so they're like, hurry up, the kids, the teacher's saying, hurry up, hurry up. But part of it is also the culture that the children grow up in. It's a culture which says, don't waste time. Time is money. Hurry up, eat your food. Gulp it down. And the most powerful mouthpiece for this indoctrination is the parents. I find myself saying to my kids who are taking their time with the bagels in the morning, hurry up, school bus is waiting, hurry up, gulp it down. Or in the evening when they're taking time with their rice and they're talking. They're not supposed to talk while they eat. I say, hurry up, hurry up. You're making me wait for you and waste my time to bathe you. Hurry up so I can do my stuff. We just bought into this culture. I mean, think about it, even fast food. That appellation, fast food, should bother us, but it doesn't because, well, we're so used to it. But behind there is a whole philosophy that food to be good should be fast. But nowadays, it's a kind of health-crazed world and avoid fast food. But you know that the concept of fast food, it doesn't stay just in the McDonald's and Burger Kings. It leaks out to all of our understanding of food. So even if we go to a high-end organic restaurant, if our food doesn't come out in 10 minutes, we're complaining. And we gulp it down. From the cooking to the consumption, and do it fast. Because time is precious and it's money. Fast, 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 fast. It's hard to slow down. But if we don't slow down, we're going to die. If we don't slow down, our soul will continue to die. John Mitchell is a blogger and a writer for tech and gadgets, right? He reviews technology and gadgets. And if there's any industry that's built on speed, it's technology. Now, you have to be on top of your game. And so this guy was totally into that, right? He obviously, he has all the latest gadgets, the fastest thing, the fastest laptop. He has multiple profiles. He loves multitasking. He has his presence in all the different types of social media. But all this, it felt was killing him, so he took a retreat. They call it a digital detox. And it's digital detox, you have to leave everything, even your cell phone. You chuck it out as you enter into this retreat. And there, all you have is the nature, people of like-minded, who felt like they need to escape all this, and your pen and a paper. You're supposed to spend time slowing down. And one of his journals, he says this about the redwoods. Those quiet and slow, massive beings makes me feel good. They are healing me from years of distraction and noise. Those quiet, slow, massive beings, redwood that takes years to grow. When we are able to step out of this fast lane, when we can get ourselves into a slow way of living, then we can see. Now that's where actually life is. That's the source of passion for this pastor that I met. We need to slow down. All right, so as far as how to slow down, I think the book gives you a lot of tips, so read through that. But I want to talk about what exactly it means to slow down. Okay, and 3 basic principles. And as we do this, you'll see that slowing down is not just like a habit you tack on to a lifestyle that's still fast. It's a whole new way of living. Because to live fast and to live slow, behind it is 2 fundamentally different philosophy of time. It's a different way of seeing time. Okay, and we're going to see that. And the first thing is this: to slow down means also to recognize and to celebrate that things take time. To recognize and celebrate that things take time. So in that sense, you see, learning to be slow is not is like anti-time. It actually accepts time on its own term. It doesn't force time to do things it cannot do. Now, hurrying, that seems to be honoring and respecting time, because it's always paying attention to time. What time is it? It's always paying attention to the clicks, right, the clocks, and how many minutes does this activity take? And it seems to be honoring time, but what it does is it tries to force time to do things it cannot do. We think if we fill our time with things to do, then our life is full, but it's not. Actually, it's left more empty. We think if we do activities all the time, then we're doing worthwhile things. But no. We could be busy about nothing. We think if we manage time well, then surely, if we're busy, there's not one single moment wasted. If we're busy, then surely we're living a passionate life because we're so active. Busyness is not passion. hurrying tries to force time to things that it cannot do. And hurrying definitely cannot make things happen. Things, whatever that is, it just takes time. We want things to happen already, right? We want our business to grow already. We want our children to be mature already. We want my faith to grow already and be a saintly person already. We want to have written that book already. But all those things takes time. We want our orange tree to be an orange tree already, but you can't force it. You can't rush it. Growth, maturity, orange trees takes time. In fact, actually, orange tree, it takes about 15 years from a seed to the tree. But even that, 15 years, it's misleading. An orange tree actually does not take 15 years. 15 is human measurement. It's the way we measure time, and down into years, months, days, hours, minutes. It's how we divide it. And to say it's a human measurement, then there's always a human judgment about it. Things are too slow. That's bad. See, so the orange tree actually literally doesn't take 15 years. Okay, human judgment. 15 years, what about this tree? 13 years, let's go for this tree. What if an orange tree takes more than 15 years? What if that specific orange seed takes 16, 17 years? Oh, then that's too slow. It's bad to get rid of it. No. Every orange seed, the length it takes for it to be an orange tree is this. Not 15. But the time it takes for that orange seed to become an orange tree. Did you get it? Am I confusing anybody? The length it takes for an orange seed to become an orange tree is the length it takes for that orange seed to become an orange tree. And here we're getting at the radical shift in what it means to live a slowing down life. We're refusing to live by the human measured, human judged time. We're saying that's not absolute. Hurrying says, this is it, 24 hours, right? This is it, my life plan, and everything must fit into that. Childbearing to child growing, and get out now, you're already old. Everything must fit into this. And now what we're saying is this is the absolute reality. And slowing down says, no, it's not. Everything has its own season. Every being, every life, every maturity has its own season. How long does it take? Its own time. And see, that's what today's letter is about that actually, isn't it? When Peter writes, it's because people are like, wait, God says he's coming, but how come he's not coming down? And the way they judge God to be slow is what? By their time frame. I think I measure the time and all prophetic stuff, and it should be here by now. Oh, my suffering's so great. Surely there's no one who suffered as much as me. So God, this suffering warrants God to return and fulfill his promise and make everything right. That's human judgment. And Peter says, well, he's not slow, not the way you think he's slow. So by saying that, Peter's saying, yeah, God is slow, but not in the way you deem slow. See, you and I, human beings, you say slow is bad, right? A slow person, a slow job market. But God is not slow in that sense, but God is slow in the sense, patience. Did you get that? He says, patient. Patience is slowness, but that's a totally different way of seeing time than saying it's slow. That patience, makrothumē, is the word that Paul uses in that love poem. The first description of love is makrothumē. We're talking about a totally different way of seeing time. In a theological way, one could say the human measurement is chronos. You're always judging, right? And that's why we get chronology. By this time, by that time, things must be done. We're not living by chronos, but we're living by kairos. What's kairos? Divine time. Divine time of divine love. Or maybe a more simpler way to put it, the time it takes for that thing to be what it will be. Things take time. And living slow is to recognize it and to celebrate it. Right? To paint something, it takes time. To write a poem takes time. Ulysses, has anyone read Ulysses? right? That's the great work by James Joyce. It's considered the great work of the 20th century literature, but most of us don't read it because it's like you get lost in the first few pages, right? But it is a great work, massive work, and it kind of redefined what it means or what fiction means, and the whole stream of consciousness, it kind of comes out of this. This book birthed that idea. And it took 7 years for James Joyce to write that book. It takes time. And it is said that he wrote a page a day. If you want to write a masterpiece, it takes time. Can we see a picture of painting takes time. Everything takes time. It's not something that you could do in one sketch. It's just a painstaking sitting down, waiting for the thing to kind of reveal itself to you. Waiting for your perception to be able to mature enough to see it. Waiting for your skills to be mature enough to express it. Things take time. So that's the first thing about learning to be slow. You recognize and you celebrate that things take time. The second thing is this. To learn to be slow, it means to pay attention. To learn to be slow means to be able to pay attention. Now, in the book, when you read it, you'll get to it. It talks about how him and his son, they were waiting on a cafe to go to a concert, and his son's like, hurry up, come on, I want to get to the concert already. And the father says to the son, look, let's sit down, and let's slow down, and let's kind of pay attention. Because his lesson is this: if you want to really be able to see things in the world, if you want to be able to pay attention, you have to learn to slow down. So let's calm down and just look at this cafe that they've been to many times and see 5 things that you've not noticed before. And he does. And he goes and he realizes that he has more than 5 things that he has not noticed. And the lesson over there is there are things that you do, but you don't really understand until you slow down and pay attention. I see, when we are so set on getting there as fast as we could, we might be missing the beauty that is all around us. When I was in a seminary, I used to drive from Princeton, New Jersey to Bayside, New York every weekend, right, where my mother was, right, my father, and every weekend. And one of the reasons why I went there was because actually I was serving in New York and Woodside at a church, and I felt like these youth kids, if I was not there, they're going to all become gangsters and go to hell, so I need to save them, right? So every weekend I would drive back and forth. And to be honest, another reason was, I could bring my laundry, get some Korean food. But driving back and forth, I mean, every weekend, I must have done that drive, I don't know, maybe 100 times through all 3 years. But there was one drive where I did not drive. I carpooled with my friend. And he was driving, right? He lost, right? So I was just sitting in the passenger side. And as I was just sitting, so I was no longer focused on getting anywhere. I didn't have to worry about the cars weaving in and out. So I was just enjoying the scenery. And as the Brooklyn kind of veers off Manhattan, you see downtown. And that time it was before pre-2011. And then I saw the Twin Towers like 2 promontories standing tall and proud. And then the sun was setting, and so it threw a canopy of red all over that island. And it was beautiful. And I said to myself, look, I still remember, did I ever drive through this? Of course I did, but I never saw it. It's amazingly beautiful. I think what's the beauty of Manhattan is that in one sense, it's a natural urban setting, almost. And I missed it, because most of the time I'm driving, and I want to get there fast. I want to weave through all the traffic and get there fast so I could finally finish my homework and get ready for Monday. But at that time, I was given the time to slow down and to see. See, if our point, if you think our life is like to get to a place as fast as we could, then maybe we might miss the whole point of the journey. Maybe the whole point of the journey is not to get to somewhere fast, but to enjoy the scenery, to enjoy the journey. If we live too fast, we might miss the sunsets. Pay attention. there, I think, is where we will find the good and beautiful God. You've probably heard the saying, right? The devil is in the details. And that comes from this metaphor, the sense of like a legal document. And in a legal document, what the devil's always trying to deceive us. And so he has these little, small lettered words in which he's going to just catch you with this contract, right? He promises one thing, but gives you something else, right? So devil is in the details. But that metaphor, like any metaphor, it could wreak havoc. It could go extend beyond its intended meaning. I beg to differ. I actually believe that God is in the details. God is in the details. In all these things, if we begin to pay attention, and we pay attention, we see this amazing simplicity and complexity, right? Unity and diversity. The surprise, like harmony in what seems apparently chaotic. All these things you could only see if you pay attention to the details. In other words, beauty of the things, beauty of anything is in the details. And that's why I think God is in the details. The beautiful God. What beauty shows us about God? You discover it in the details. When you pay attention to the details. Quentin Wheeler, he's a professor at Arizona State University, and he is the official expert of slime, mold, and fungus-eating beetles. That's an amazing title, isn't it? Wouldn't you love to be known as the expert in slime, mold, and fungus-eating beetles? When you go out on a date, like, I am the slime mold. Oh man, I'll marry you. Right. He's an expert. He spends his work days, but even his leisure, going out into the woods and looking at the slime molds and fungus and all the beetles that's attracted to it and studies them. And connected with that is that he does taxonomy. He loves taxonomy, basically classification, right? And the reason why he could do classification is because he's paying so much detailed attention to each beetle. So when he sees the beetle, he knows what that beetle is, or if it is a new one. See, most of us, when we see a beetle, we scream, and then we do one of these two things, right? Either we crush it, or we say, honey, and we have a husband crush it, right? I bet most of us don't even see a beetle. We just see it as a bug. It's a bug. But beetle is a beautiful thing for him because he pays attention to it. And when you look into it, it belongs to an older order called Cleopteras, I think. And this order actually turns out that this beetle order, has most species of all other orders. It consists of 40% of all known insects, and 25% of all life forms are beetles. Isn't that amazing? And ladybugs are beetles too. Did you know that? Does that gross you out now? Right? But this is just basic stuff. I mean, he knows all the names, all the different things. And so he could say what type of beetle this is and gives his official name, and also say this is a new beetle. And so he's so greatly interested in taxonomy. Now, most of us, again, think that's boring. Like, I don't want to give my life to studying beetles and naming it. That's such a boring life. But he says this in an interview. He goes, there's a false impression about taxonomy as if it's something old like collecting stamps. But to me, there's no greater thrill than to be the first human to lay knowing eyes on a new life form in this universe. For me, there's no greater thrill than to be the first human being to knowingly lay eyes on a new life form in this universe. Wow. Is that what it is? Yes. Because he pays attention. He pays attention. Let's go back to the painting again. Right? And this is a still life painting, right? And it's a still life painting of fruits. Now, realistic painting. Now, there is definitely a lot of skills that goes to it, right? I mean, it takes time, obviously. But when I look at it, I say to myself, like, if you're going to do a still life realistic painting, why not just take a photograph? They're more realistic. And if you're going to do a still life, why fruits? Like, do something more interesting. Do something Great Canopy. Do Grand Canyon. Fruit? Why would anybody in the world would sit down and spend a day or two just looking at fruits? When we see fruits, most of us say, Oh, I'm hungry. Let me eat. See, but for these artists, they're paying attention. They really slow down everything and pay attention. When they do, they see beauty. Beauty enough to invest their time and to express it. And then you wonder, does this artist who's just gazing at fruits know more about life and beauty than me in wandering all around Europe? Maybe. Paying attention. Now it goes the other way too. Okay, we can move on. We slow down to pay attention, but the very act of paying attention forces us to slow down. In other words, these two things, it's hard to say which precedes which. You know? So one says practicing paying attention will allow you to practice slowing down. Kind of, you know, maybe the whole concept of slowing down bothers you. Like, I can't, then practice slowing down and you'll be already practicing. Practice paying attention and you'll already be slowing down. Paying attention, right? Because when you pay attention, time distorts, doesn't it? Right? When you get lost in work, Csikszentmihalyi, he's a psychologist, he talks about flow, and flow is the moment when someone is in the zone. And what happens when you're in the zone is, he says, time distorts. Because what happens is, you're so engrossed in that, you start paying attention to the ticking of the clock. And here again, we get into something fundamental. See, to live a life that's slowing down is to say that time cannot dictate my life. That's what slowing down is. And one of the best ways to practice it is learning to pay attention to that thing before you. Because when you do, time slows down. Right? Barry Bonds, he's the home run king, but yes, he took steroids, so he muscled up, and so many of his doubles became home runs because of those. But his skill to see the baseball is unquestionable. He always had it. And he says in one of his interviews that there came a point as he was practicing that he could actually see the rotation of the ball. Now, a typical major league fastball gets to catcher's mitt less than a second. At least maybe 0.4167 seconds for the batter to react. In other words, to whether to swing at it or not. Most of us would stand there, and when a major leaguer throws a fastball, we would see a blur, and we would jump back 10 feet because we don't want to be hitting our skull. But Barry Bonds sees the rotation of the ball. It's like Neo in the Matrix, like bullet slow down. And it could happen. Right? He slows down time. It's because he's paying attention, paying focus. Again, going back, it's fundamental different ways. He's saying time is not absolute. Right? This ticking clock, 24 hours, is not the absolute. There's another reality that I can live in, slowing down. And then, of course, it goes the other way, too. The beautiful paradox of this is this. When you're paying attention, time slows down. But then, when you're done with the activity, what happens? You look at the clock and you're like, it's already past dinner time. So I note that again to say, it's not just a literal slowing down. It's a way of standing outside of the human measured time. That's what we're trying to do here. When you're paying attention, in the moment, time is slow. When it's done, time is fast. Kind of like what Peter was saying here, 1,000 days to a day to 1,000 days. Peter was not trying to give a mathematical precision that 1,000 equals 1. What he was saying is, you can't measure God's time with the human time. And to live a slowing down life is to say, I will not live dictated, chained to human measured, human judgment of time, but to that divine time. So that's the second thing, paying attention. Right? The third and the last thing is this. Slowing down means to be in the present tense, to be in the now. Right? And it's not a mistake that the word presence, someone being there, and present, the tense that's not past or future, that those two words are related. If you're not in the present tense, then your presence is not there. And we experience this at a really existential level on a daily basis, right? You come home and you are talking about your days, but your wife, she's not there. And he's like, wait, are you here? I'm talking to you. And she said, oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking about what happened 2 hours ago. So if our mind is not here, in the present tense, then our presence is not here. It's important if we want to be living in the being of presence, we have to learn to be in the present tense. Now, this existential daily experience is somewhat grounded in a metaphysical reality. In other words, a sense of time. When you think about time too, okay, I might have shared this, but does the past exist? Does the future exist? It doesn't. Right? St. Augustine, he was reflecting upon this in the Book of Confessions, and he says, there is no metaphysical reality, no substance to the future or the past, right? Even the present, there's the present, right? And the past is only the presentness of the past, which is actually just recollection, or the presentness of the future, which is expectation. But those two things don't exist. The one thing that really exists, the only thing that's metaphysical substantive is this moment, the present. Consider that. Now, there is a mystery to this. Now, if you try to get what is the precise moment of the present, you can't get there. Like, is this hour? No, it's got to be more precise. Is this second? No, because you can't get there. So the closer you try to get, it becomes a vanishing point. But then it's infinitely small, but at the same time, it's infinitely big, because that's the thing, that present moment that you and I live with right now, that's the thing that holds our being. We will not be if we're not in the present. Everybody get that? Because we tend to see it like this, like timeline. We see a timeline, right? Can you imagine that line, okay? And we think it all exists. And the present moment is just a window. And then the future exists, but it comes, and then we become aware in the present second, it goes back to the past, but it exists. But it's not like that. There is like an infinitely small but infinitely big. It's paradoxical. There's this isness, the being, the presence. And actually, future doesn't exist until it comes here. And then past doesn't exist. It only remembers in our memory in the present time. In other words, if I'm not here, then there's no future for me and no past. But because I am here, there's a future that I expect and a past that I recollect. Okay, all this to say, the only thing that is real is the present moment. Is the present moment. But yet, we just disregard it and throw it away, living out of nostalgia or pain, or living for some wishful thinking and dreams. When the only thing that exists is right here, this moment. And Augustine asks then, is eternity the present moment? No. And eternity is, it goes beyond the human concept of past, present, future. And we know that, right? Revelations, the creatures come and worship God and says, who was and is to come. The Hebrew writer says Jesus Christ is the same, the yesterday, today, and forever, which is to say that he's beyond all this division of time. But, Augustine says, and I agree with him, is that the place where eternity intersects with time is the present moment. Because the past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is the present moment. And God's eternity intersects every day with us in the present moment, now. So the Hebrew writer talks about how, right, every day, or, encourage one another daily, as long as it is called today, now, so that you will not be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. Today you must meet. Or Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, right, for now is the time of God's favor, and now is the time of God's salvation. Now is where God is. And in the now, God can redeem the past that is present in you always, and also give you hope for the future that is present in you. And God touches us now, in every moment, because that's all there is for us human life. And God is there. And if we are present, if we learn to be present, then truly we can experience the presence of God. When Moses goes and asks God, what's your name? And God says, Yahweh, I am. When the Pharisees are confused who Jesus is and just say, just tell us who you are. And they talk, and then it seems like Jesus saying that he's older than Abraham. So they ask him straight up, so are you saying that you're older than Abraham, that you existed before Abraham was? He says, I was. No, he says, I am. And God promises that I am your God. I am with you. I am your salvation. I am your Redeemer. I am. Just even right now, just stop. This present moment. This is all we have. The gracious gift of God, in which we can experience the eternal presence of God. And today we're going to do communion a little bit slower. I want us to really hear Jesus Christ saying to you now, my life for you. In fact, I want you to also even taste the bread. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to come down and we're going to take the communion and we're going to dip it, but I will ask you to dip it lightly. And then you will cusp it and then you will go back to your seat. And you're just going to wait there. Pay attention to the present moment here, filled with the presence of God. And just listen. And then we're going to eat it together. But the way we're going to eat it together is you're just going to put it in your mouth and you're going to let it melt. And as you melt, understand that Christ is giving his life to you. So those who will be serving the communion, if you could come forward.